Anne of Green Gables is a children's novel written by Lucy Maud Montgomery and was published in 1908. Loved by generations of readers, the book has never been out of print, has sold more than 50 million copies worldwide, and lives on in both print and in TV shows. The author grew up on Prince Edward Island, and that is the setting for her books. We are going to visit the Green Gables Heritage Place, a museum located on the farm where she visited her Mary Campbell cousins, and her birthplace. The Anne of Green Gables Museum is the home where in the book Anne visited her Mary Campbell cousins and where Lucy was wed on July 5, 1911. Lucy called this home Silverbush and said that during her childhood it was one of the happiest places in the world. I had the pleasure of meeting one of the Campbell descendants while touring the inside of the home. Lucy Maud Montgomery was married standing in this room before the fireplace mantel. Lucy ready for her wedding and wearing some of the dresses for her honeymoon. Now holding china, this was Anne's enchanted bookcase in the Anne of Green Gables book, where her reflection was an imaginary friend. This was actually the practice of Lucy as a child, which she explains in her autobiography, The Alpine Path. The second bookcase holds books by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Here you see first edition books containing Lucy Maud Montgomery's autograph. The top of the desk you see books translated into other languages. Her books are available in 36 languages. This frame holds photos mainly of the Campbell family, but the large center photograph is of Lucy and Stella at Niagara Falls. This cabinet contains various notes and memorabilia, including a scrapbook from when her autobiography was printed in serial form in Every Woman's World magazine. It also includes the book Ben-Hur that Lucy was sneakily reading when she was supposed to be studying Canadian history in school until she was caught by the teacher. The Crazy Quilt was worked on by the author from age 12 to 16, made of scraps of fabric, and sometimes came to a standstill because there were no scraps to be had. The book The Story Girl talks of Rachel's blue chest. In reality, the chest belonged to Eliza Montgomery, whose bridegroom did not appear on their wedding day. Heartbroken, Eliza locked her belongings in a trunk, never to be opened. After obtaining permission, Lucy opened the trunk, and these are some of the items it held. This is Lucy's own little bedroom in the Campbell home. When she was about 10 years old, Lucy told people who lived across from the Campbell farm that if she ever had a little girl, she would name her Anne, but she never had a little girl. I hope you enjoyed the Campbell house. We now move to the place of Lucy Maud Montgomery's birth on November 30th, 1874 in Clifton, Prince Edward Island. Lucy lived to be 67 years old and is buried in the Cavendish Community Cemetery. Lucy was 36 years old when she married the Reverend Ewan MacDonald on July 5, 1911. They had been secretly engaged since 1906. When I saw this 38-page letter Lucy wrote describing her honeymoon to the British Isles, my first thought was, that sounds like me. The main bedroom where Lucy was born in 1874. We now move to the Green Gables Heritage Place, where there is a wonderful collection of information about Lucy, as well as visiting the Green Gables home, replicated here with Legos. On June 20th, 1908, Lucy wrote a letter that expressed her pleasure at receiving the first edition of the Anne of Green Gables, which had been rejected by 5 other publishers. Her letter says, "Not a great book, but mine, something to which I have given birth." The manuscript may have been typed on this typewriter that she purchased in 1906. The museum holds a wonderful collection of photos, copies of documents, quotes, and information about Lucy and her life. Anne of Green Gables is based on her real-life story growing up on the island. The author wrote 7 sequels to the original story, plus 13 other books about young women living on the island. In her autobiography, The Alpine Path, Lucy wrote, "I cannot remember the time when I was not writing or when I did not mean to be an author. To write has always been my central purpose around which every effort and home and ambition of my life has grouped itself. There was an area where people could write their thoughts and put them in clips. One stood out because it speaks to the reality in which generations of women have grown up. Anne taught me that it is okay for girls to be smart. This is the walk from the museum and barn to the house. Lucy spent much of the first half of her life here. The home was owned by her cousins and is the setting for the Anne of Green Gables. There had been storms in the area that had taken down trees and left paths unnavigable, so I did not stray from this part of the grounds. Paul and I hope you enjoyed visiting the Anne of Green Gables historic sites and learning a bit more about Lucy Maud Montgomery. We recommend our Prince Edward Island video for scenic views of the area in which Lucy grew up. If you enjoy visiting scenic and historic places with us, click the subscribe button and notifications bell so you know each time we publish a new video. Give us a thumbs up and leave us your comments below. For more interesting information in history, we recommend you check out our Grand Prix video where we visit historic spots and walk on dikes built in the 1860s. In Calgary attractions, we visit the Calgary Tower, Glenbow Museum, and Lougheed House. Desert Strike Command provides information about the largest military war game since World War II. Come travel with us.